Falgun, I have a question with this particular node 3 because it is a very, let's say, typical node we find in every, let's say, test process. Because whenever I think about, generation of equivalence classes or a boundary value analysis, it typically seems fine in the lower level when you do a unit test or a software integration test. But when I really think about a system test, yeah, that too, especially with respect to cybersecurity, how relevant do you think these methods are? Point number one, considering even the cybersecurity specifications are also at the higher level. Point number one. And point number two, if they are not that relevant, what else would you recommend, or what else would be the right way to decide that how should I, specify my, tests specifications?
Okay, so I would rather answer point number two first, and then go to point number one. So your point number two was what else, right? So part of the question was that. Part of the question was if the point number one is not relevant. I wouldn't say it is not relevant, but I would answer what are the other ways. Now, when we're talking about the other ways, the key thing that, in my perspective, is important is we are talking about the system here, as you said. Now, system has different interfaces. So let's take about any of the system, let's say powertrain system. So it does connect to a lot of other ECUs, right? It does get information or share information to so many other ECUs, right? So this is where the interface testing, what kind of interface testing would happen. It can be connected through a gateway, it can be connected through a CAN network, it can be connected through Ethernet network. All these happen. So this is where that part becomes critical. Now, coming back slowly to the point one, why I think generation of equivalence value or boundary value or error guessing is still applicable even at the system level is because of, let's say, such interfaces, right? Now, when you are trying to do all these kinds of tests at your unit level or your software level, be it the software level, you are still looking at the scope of the software. But at the system level, you have an interface, you can break that interface, but you have to test the complete software also as part of the system, right? You just break the interface, but then your actual value should still go in. Are there ways where you can break the interface and still break the complete software by putting in different values, or are there ways where you cannot break the interface but still you can hamper the system? I'm sorry, you can hamper the system. So this is where I still feel that the boundary values or the equivalence class values or maybe error guessing would still have some kind of reference. I still would like to share one personal experience of such kind of testing, a very low level testing. um, when we were trying to test a particular unit, the unit did work, but through the interface, uh, uh, it was through Ethernet channel. We used to send a huge byte of data, right? And in that bytes of data, it was basically a structure, right? And in that structure, there was integer, float, etc. I mean, the different variables. Um, the way the structure was defined, it was not proper. Like means the padding was not there. So it was uneven padding. Now, when we put a huge byte of data where the order was mismatched, the system would crash. Now, you wouldn't know why the system crashed. Probably the first reason that you would think is, okay, the system is not able to handle that huge amount of data. But it is, again, on Ethernet. Ethernet normally handles this data. So this is where the equivalence class or the boundary class will come into picture. And finally, after a lot of debugging, we found out that the padding was the issue, which was all the way buried down in the unit level.